This is the story of how I beat Factorio by producing 110 items, manually, anyway. As well as a couple other achievements I didn't get, but that's just how I did it. So, in order to beat Factorio, the entire goal, launch a rocket. Simple enough, you know, just a rocket. Yep. But there's a big tech tree and a ton of complicated items like these, and yeah. The thing is, you're supposed to craft everything, at least with, we do that. Here it is. You're supposed to do this achievement by making everything automatically rather than manually. So that's where these come in, assembly machines. It looks like a lot, but it isn't as much as it looks like. So, let's start from the simplest thing, iron, because why not? I'm going to go through my entire base. Not too complicated for most of it, as I do with all engineering things. I just kind of threw them all together. Regardless, a couple little iron patches here, and a couple more miners over here. Just getting basic raw iron, combining it into one big line, splitting it into two different paths. First of all, the general iron line, two different outputs into splitters, just making sure that enough is able to go through, into this system. So what it's doing is with these two lines, it's helping to make sure that there is always at least a little bit of iron in the system. Though, I just realized I hooked that up really weirdly and I could change that, but for another time. And by that, I mean I'm not going to do it because I'm done playing this one. But that's how iron gets into this major system. Here's the length of the entire thing. Iron fills up all of this, and then also a lot of random spots that kind of jet out, like right here, for instance. Right here. Actually, yeah, this one is only iron. Now, let's go to copper. This one is actually just extremely basic. I didn't ever mess with copper because I didn't need it all that much. Now I'm starting to, but it's alright. I already won the game, pretty much. So, pretty basic, just more ore going into more furnaces, then being split into the system same way iron is. So, right here, I have the automation of all of these belts that you see. It looks complicated, but it's a lot less intricate than it looks. Most of it is just iron. It's just right here, like 3 separate spots that need copper. And even then they don't need it, it's just, well, no, they need it, but not as much as I'm putting into the system. And a lot of these are redundant. It's just put in place to get as fast as possible, because I needed a lot of them, if you can't tell. Let's see. What's the best way to look at this? Oh, that is definitely a way to look at it. Okay. So, down here, I also have my steel production, which, to get steel, I did the same thing that I did with iron, just regular drills, put into electric furnaces, and then a bunch of productivity modules on the steel, and speed modules on the iron. Productivity increases the output, basically not requiring as much iron per steel. Then speed modules just make it all go faster. Then steel goes into the system, and it's set up differently. Steel, instead of being one huge line like iron and copper, it's just put where it needs to go. Right here is one of the biggest spots for it, but as you can see, it kind of like goes all over the place. In all honesty, there probably was a way to make this all a lot more compact and efficient, but it didn't need to be, so I didn't. In order to get the rocket parts right here, you need, let me go over there by foot real quick. Okay, in order to get rocket parts, you need control units, low density structures, and rocket fuel. Rocket fuel, I'll show later, but the structures and the control units, I can show you like this. Okay, you need speed modules and advanced circuits. I'll go into advanced circuits. If I can find where it was. Okay, over here. So it just requires red, green, and sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is just iron, sulfur, water, all combined. Relatively easy. Red circuits, let's go into. I have a pretty decent automation for them. I recently was having trouble with the copper wires, so I had to increase the amount of copper going to this individually. Now, it's catching up a lot, but that's because I also shut it down in a couple spaces, and it still is barely producing enough for the speed modules that I was using, which I was using a lot. In fact, I still am. The amount that it's keeping up with is right here. You can see it has a backlog, but the place that it's going, it only has this backlog because there's just nothing to grab it. So that's red circuits, blue circuits, and the control units. The low density structures, those are pretty easy. Plastic, steel, and then copper. I piped in iron because I was too lazy to filter it out. But it's really easy, just takes a ton of time. Yeah. So that's why I was planning on putting a lot more, but turns out I was producing more than I needed, really. Right, I guess I'll show my science setup. So, pretty easy. I did not have much yellow science because I was just pretty far into the game, and like I already have almost everything unlocked. The only thing I would need is any gray science, because I don't have any. And then just more yellow science, more yellow and then white science, but there's no way I'm automating that. White science needs this rocket to go up and back down, and you get, let me check actually, you get 1,000 per, which sounds like a lot, but if I look at all of these each require at least 1,000. A couple of them 2,000, maybe 3. So, no thanks. Let's see. back over to science. Pretty easy, just it being split up a couple different ways with another tunnel running through for the yellow science. Blue, purple, green, and red are all being split into it. Yellow, I had to shut down fabrication for because I already had everything that I needed, and it was taking up too much important resources, like the low density structures and the the blue circuits. Low density structures I was struggling on for a while, like I said earlier. But let's go to blue. Blue isn't bad. I kind of messed with it a little bit on accident, but it's just reds, engines, and sulfur. Sulfur's easy. Red I already showed you. Engines are over here. Just gears, steel, and pipes. So I set that up just like this. Just these small couple things gets engines for some reason. I wish that was what it was like in real life. So that's the blue sciences. Green is pretty tricky. It's inserters and regular transport belts, which you get those very early on, but it's just automating those I always struggle with for some reason. Even though it's actually really easy, just just green circuits, gears, and iron plates. It doesn't even have to be all that efficient. Mine is just 3 different assemblers going into this, 2 assemblers into this one thing, and then it's making them. These blue inserters are the same thing as the yellow ones, just they're slightly faster, and so I always use them, or most people do. Then there's the green inserters, which is the red circuits, green circuits, and then the blue inserters in order to make the green ones. These are the same speed as the blue inserters, I believe. 864, yeah, they're the same rotation speed, however they have a different stack limit, so they can grab 10 items instead of the 2 that the blue can grab, which they can only grab 2 because of research advances and all that. Red is the easiest out of all of them. It's just grab some gears and some copper, and you got the red science. But I am pretty proud of this, because I could just extend it as long as it needs to be, and I can get as much research done as I want to. The amount of labs only increases the time between, or it decreases the amount of time per research. I didn't end up setting up any flying robots, like logistics or construction robots, because I just didn't need to. It would have been helpful for a lot of times, but I even set up like Roboport automation. I just never really got to it. Like if I look here, I have some in my inventory. I just never made them. Right, okay. I will explain this real quick. So, I didn't set up any solar panels at all in this world. It wasn't intentional, for the most part, until I realized there's an achievement to complete the game without building any solar panels. So, that's kind of how I did it. So, because I wasn't planning on making a mega base, which is just way too much copper and iron, more than necessary for the most part, I didn't really need all that much power. I could have extended this up to here, and I would have had more than enough power for most of the game. These radars just help me be able to do this, instead of like over here, where I can't see anything. So this is how I started off the game. Just getting the raw materials, getting assemblers, putting them in chests, and then getting as much as I could. But as you go on, you can't do that as much, just because it takes so long and you need so many resources like that. So I started automating the assemblers, and as you can see, I used a couple of them. Let's see. Then there was also these electric poles that I have everywhere. I automated those, as well as ones that can reach further away. So like these two are set to the maximum length they can be. But if I go over here, this is the maximum length of these two. So pretty helpful. Over here, sulfur concrete, which is useful for a lot of nuclear stuff. And then the blue circuits I already showed you. Batteries, those are useful for, I believe, flying robot frames, if I'm not mistaken, which I might be. Yes, yeah, flying robot frames, which you need flying robot frames for the yellow science, which the yellow science is the second hardest to the white science, but, or most difficult, I guess, I don't know. This was by far my favorite way to set up any 3 or 4 item production. Just have one regular belt with 2 different items on it, then have it be piped under. That was weird. Don't know what happened there. So if I go right, here's a good example of it. The red circuits are 3 items to make 1. So it splits it, undergrounds it, splits it again, and the inserter is able to take it from both sides of, is able to take from the splitter for, yeah. Then, as you can see here, I have a train. This train is delivering lubricant, which is useful for a ton of different things, mainly for better belts that I never made because I do not want to make 80 gears. That's awful. Sorry, that's 80 gears in 2 seconds. Awful. But it is also needed for, what was it? I believe, yeah, over here. The electrical engines. I think that is really the only thing I'm using them for over here. The reason why I have so much storage of them is because I needed it. I guess I'll explain that in a little bit. But first, I will go over to nuclear energy. Because, yeah, you know, nuclear. So, the train is taking from the main base sulfur and iron and delivering it over here. The iron is used to make a ton of these capsules. The sulfur is used to mine the uranium. Uranium then gets split decently into these centrifuges, which produce both uranium-235 and uranium-238. 235 is extremely rare. It's this bright green one right here. But if I look at all of these, none of them have 235s. It's all 238s, these dark green ones. Then if I look in these chests are full of 238, but not 235. 235s have none in them. But there's a process that you can unlock called the Korvax enrichment process, which you can set up, as I did, to basically produce 1 uranium-235 for 3 238s, I believe. So, with the 235 and the 238, you can then make uranium fuel cells with iron plates as well to have the casing for it. So, if I go over here, the nuclear reactors just consume the fuel, and they dump out, let's see if I can see one. Okay, yeah, they dump out these fuel cells. Empty fuel cells, rather, which those can be converted back into 238s, not 235s, unfortunately. But because of the Korvax enrichment process, it can just be recircled back into 235. But with these generate heat. That's all they do. But they're both at almost 1,000 degrees Celsius. You can see it like right here. If I hover back, oh, you can't see my mouse, huh? Whoops. At the like bottom right, there's the temperature, 999.97 Celsius. For fellow Fahrenheit people, that is extremely hot. But it then gets converted into these heat exchangers, which, funnily enough, all it does is just boil water, because that's all energy is ever made out of. It's infuriating. But this system is set up like this, so I can have extra steam, just because it produces ever so slightly more than one consumes. So, but now that you've seen all of the power, I can show it to you. This is a lot of information. What is that? That's 16 different items over here, and then 2 items over here, 2 producers, and 16 consumers. But there's 56 steam turbines, 56 steam engines, which are, as you can see, a lot less powerful, and then 10 steam turbines, which are, once again, a lot more powerful. Because of how I have the base set up, the electric furnaces are consuming the most power because I have a bunch of speed and productivity modules on them, meaning they take up more power to do anything. I also don't have any accumulators, which those are just basically batteries for the power grid. So this is really the nuclear setup. It's not all that complex, I guess. You can see a little bit better now that it's dark, just how bright this area is, or can be. Yeah. Then, let's go over to here. Yeah. So, for this next part I'm about to show you, it needs a pretty decent backlog of coal. So, that's all this station is. Just brings the train nearby, which I don't actually know where it is right now. Here it is. It just puts coal into this back chest here. So, that's all this station is for. And also a little bit of radar work, so that I could hope to expand the area a little bit. These black areas can be spotted without going over there with the radars within a certain range. But this is really as far as I can get with the radars that I have in place now. Then we go to My Chemical Romance, because no idea, it was just funny. It has the plastic and the sulfur. It takes the plastic and sulfur, produces them over here, then pipes them over to the main base. But you also have to make lubricant here and rocket fuel, which here it is. Rocket fuel is needed to beat the game because you need to have rocket fuel for the rocket, obviously. So that means basically there's 2 different types of refinement process. There's basic oil processing, which turns crude oil into petroleum. Then there's advanced oil processing, which is water and crude oil, into heavy, light, and then petroleum. Heavy is only, whoops. Okay, heavy oil is only used for lubricant and, lubricant, solid fuel, and cracking into light oil. But the way that I have it set up is all of my heavy oil is just into these 3 lubricant productions, and then also this heavy to light oil cracking. Then onto the light oil. If you look at the recipes for solid fuel, or rather rocket fuel, it's light oil and solid fuel. Solid fuel you can make out of any of the 3, heavy, light, or petroleum. But the rocket fuel can only be made with light oil. So, why not just make it all light oil, you know? It doesn't put a drain on the light oil. No, not at all. So that's what I did, you know? Light oil making the rocket fuel, and then light oil making the solid fuel for the rocket fuel. Which, as you can see, it is producing less than it's being consumed, or it's producing not enough, basically. And that's just because I have a huge backlog of solid fuel. It's ridiculous. But that was because I was powering this power, which I have separate to my main power, because it was already struggling with power, and this takes a lot. But I have these regular steam engines being powered with rocket fuel, because who wouldn't want to see rocket powered steam engines, you know? But the math, so this was the one area I did a ton of math for, and if you'd like to know, it was 24 assemblers for the rocket fuel, so 24 individual rocket fuel makers, and then 16 solid fuel producers, as well as 2 petroleum converters from the light oil to the petroleum. And like I said, this is just my favorite way of hooking it up. No idea why. It's just awesome. But now onto petroleum. Let's see. Right. Petroleum is only used for plastic and sulfur. Like, every other gas has a pretty decent backlog, except for petroleum, because it is being used. What would be the word for this? It isn't being used efficiently. That is to ensure that there's always more to add to the system, meaning if there's ever a backlog of lubricant, say, where these 2 are full, and these, I don't even know how many of those are, but say 20 storage containers are full of lubricant, which you can see they're getting there, it won't stop producing the plastic and sulfur. That is a pretty big concern when working with all of these resources, because if any of the outputs are full, then it won't produce anything else. But yeah, this is the only place that I really did a ton of math for. It wasn't really that advanced, just addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, nothing, no like integrals or anything. Which I'm surprised to see this plastic line full. That's cool. But the train, if I can find it again. Okay, the train is powered as well by rocket fuel, which I can show you from over here. This is where the train head is supposed to be, and then, yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much my entire base. So, on that note, whoa, hang on, I have played this game. Is that 32 hours, I think it is? Hang on, let me check. 35. Yep, 35 hours I've been on this world. So it is awesome to see this. Hang on, I gotta do something. So I believe originally it's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. I could be wrong though. But the achievement for beating the game for your first time is called So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. Like I said, I think Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And so, it wouldn't be right if within the rocket inventory, I didn't end with some fish. Just wouldn't be right. Can I? Okay. I cannot go into the rocket like I thought I could. But, let's do this. Okay, 4 achievements. That's crazy. Apparently, trees have killed me 11 times. And that it took me 35 hours, 25 minutes to beat this game. With assembling only. Then, let's see. Okay. Sorry about that. Checking something. So now you can see my mouse. If I do this, and I look, how do I do the thing? Here it is, achievements. Lazy bastard. Win the game by manually crafting no more than 111 items. 3.2% of people that play Factorio have gotten this game. Or this achievement. Logistics network embargo. No robotic chess, basically. 7.8%. Finish the game. 18.5% of people have beaten the game normally. So long and thanks for all the fish. I don't even know what this is. I think maybe it's because I put the fish in there. That would be funny. And yeah, I just got all 4 of those with 1 rocket launch. That is crazy. 35 hours completed. Now, on that note, yeah, I'll make some power armor. And then some exosuit skeletons. Let's make night vision. Why not? I can finally make things normally. Let's see. What else do I want to make? So I am kind of disappointed that I didn't get any solar panel. Or I didn't get the solar panel or a couple other achievements, but it's alright. I will probably still continue to play this game because it's just... Okay, interesting. Okay, that's why. That makes sense. But yeah, beating this game within 8 hours seems impossible, especially with alien bases. So that would be cool to try, but I don't think I can. On that note, power armor. Nice. I like the inventory upgrade. Then these two, night vision. Let's see, personal batteries. I don't have the... Oh, I do. Okay. Then a couple solar panels, because it's funny. Either way, that's been this Factorio world. If anyone is curious about the amount of everything that I've used, so it isn't going to be entirely accurate. It's going to be missing a couple things just in general. But you can see I basically copied my entire base. It's going to be a little inaccurate, like I said. There's going to be a couple things like this that aren't there. If you check, there's no... what's it called? There's no power lines in between of the radar. And then there's also a ton of rails that are missing. And it's also counting all the ghosts that I have, like these ghost nuclear reactors and these ghost assembling machines. But, whoops, hang on, I did this wrong. If I do that, then I open this. This is generically how much of everything I have placed down. It says I have a single filter inserter, which is really funny to me. 53 steel furnaces, 45 storage tanks, 6,500 transport belts. A lot of this is going to be a little inaccurate, but the 248 express transport belts sounds about right. 105 regular transport belts, because I never changed those. 4 stone furnaces. I believe it would be because of places like... Let's see. Right. I believe actually they're all right here. Yep. Just spare production in case I ever needed to get some stone or iron. But I forgot to say, here's all my backlog. It used to be a lot more. Then I put everything into one place and started distributing it to places that needed things. But yeah, that has been Factorio with not making things automatically, or not making things manually. It has definitely been a ride. And Lazy Bastard is going on my Steam page now. On that note, anyone who decided to watch, thank you. Sorry this is 40 minutes long, but whatever. Either way, I'll probably talk to anyone who has seen this some point soon. So, bye everyone.